Welcome to the source.
When it's 4 o'clock, just hit go. You don't have to clear it.
The source. Source. Hey, get the source.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Happy Thursday to all. Hope you had a nice Wednesday night. Enjoyed some college football action. Enjoyed a Mets collapse. Just a lack of offensive production from Grimace. But you know what? It's okay. We've been here before several times. When they blew the lead to the Braves there at the end of the regular season. When the Brewers took game 2, everyone said it was over. When the Phillies took game 2, the Mets blew that lead. Everyone said Grimace was over. Here's just one constant that's remained true throughout all of that. Grimace is never over. You can't. What lies behind this mask is more than flesh. It's an idea. And ideas are bulletproof. This Grimace is bulletproof, and I am not worried in the slightest. We'll even the series tonight. We got Yankees-Cleveland up first. So the rundown today, we got MLB first, then NFL second, and then college football. So that's the order we're going in. For those of you that wants to stick around for the whole program. First up, though, Yankees-Cleveland. The line moved towards Cleveland. Almost a pick 'em. Just saying. Sharp action on my side. Toast is on the Yankees. He's abandoned all hope.
Yeah, this was so simple for me. Yankees money line, Yankees team total over 3.5. Yeah, the line's moving a little bit. It's kind of went up and down a little bit, but nothing really significant. How do you bet Cleveland? I understand that they have to win this game and yada, 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 and all that good BS that people want to talk about. But the fact of the matter is they can't score runs. And if you can't score runs, you can't win baseball games. And sure, you can make a case that Clark Schmidt isn't some dominant guy. But at the same time, on the road this season, in a limited sample size, 1.39 ERA, 1.12 whip. His xFIP's a little bit up there. Again, does he struggle with some lefties? Yeah. Does Cleveland have a whole bunch of lefties in that lineup? Yeah. Not one of them scares me. None of them. Yes, Lane Thomas had a big home run. David Fry had a big home run. David Fry won't be in the lineup today. Again, over the course of this whole playoffs and over the course of the last 2 or 3 months, this Cleveland team has done nothing offensively to scare me at all. So, yes, you can make all those cases about Clark Schmidt and the lefties and him being on the road. But again, Matthew Boyd really struggles versus right-handed bats as well. 230 batting average versus righties with a 641 OPS against him compared to lefties only hitting 143 with nearly a 580 OPS. Well, there's only 3 lefties in that lineup today for the Yankees. One of them being Soto, one of them being Jazz, and one of them being Verdugo. Everybody else is right-handed bats. Now, I will give you that Birdie and Volpe and Trevino at the bottom of that lineup.
And Judge.
Judge got a home run. He's back.
Oh, okay. One swing of the bat, and Judge is
one
awesome
swing
again.
of the bat. That's all it takes for the
I
GOAT.
believe it was you who were like 24 hours ago saying, this guy sucks in the playoffs. And
I tell you, he just had to make contact with the ball and went out of the park. I'm all on board now.
So everything else is erased. Everything up to this point is erased because Judge made contact with the ball one time. That's what you're saying. You're looking into the camera and saying that?
Yes. But all honesty, I'd play Judge and Soto for their hits, runs, and RBIs because they're the 2 best guys versus lefties in the lineup. Judge with a 1.24 OPS versus left-handed pitching. Soto's almost a 1 dot, or I think he's like a 970 or something like that. So those are the guys that I trust versus lefty bats. I also think Gleyber could get going today. Again, I just think that there's too much power and too much. Just the Yankees are just too much for Cleveland. So if the Yankees or the Cleveland happens to get a couple runs off of Clark Schmidt, I still don't know if it's going to be good enough. Again, I keep on talking about that Cleveland bullpen. They use it in sparingly ways, that's for sure. But at the same time, I'm not really worried about Eli Morgan, Cantino, Walters, Herron, all those guys. Cade Smith is a dog. I will give him that. Clase has been pretty good, but he also gave it up in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. Hunter Gaddis is give or take. I don't really worry about him. But again, I just feel like this is too cheap to play the Yankees. And I'm not going to I don't care if the world's on it. I don't care who's on it. I'm not going to let the Yankees at essentially a pick 'em pass me up in the playoffs. There's not a chance in hell I'm going to do it, especially against Cleveland. Oh, really quickly, Matthew Boyd, for all you haters, has been very good at home. Sure. Who against who? Detroit, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Texas, and the Cubs. Child, please. Next game.
Cleveland money line.
Hit him with the child, please.
I love that one.
I guess I don't need to talk.
Oh, well, let's hear it.
I mean, usually I have something pretty insightful to say. Not really here, though. Cleveland money line. This is their season's on the line. We're going to see the Guardians.
I was going to say, let's hear it.
The Guardians are going to empty the tank here. Everything they've got in the bullpen, whatever they got, whatever gas is left on the Guardians fastball, we're going to see it. We're going to see their best fastball right here. One of the best home teams in Major League Baseball this year, although not so much down the stretch, but still one of the best home teams in baseball this year with their season on the line, putting everything they got into one baseball game. Meanwhile, the Yankees can afford to lose one. Cleveland takes this. Go ahead. Everyone bet the Yankees. Enjoy your night. Cleveland money line.
And just for the record for everybody, all that energy that Cleveland's going to put out might give you 2 or 3 runs. Maybe. Just letting you know.
Yeah, see, here comes the comments in. Kyle, that's a donation. Mute Kyle. Go ahead. Bet the Yankees. Talk to you later.
I have so much confidence in the Yankees after the first 2 games and the world being with me. I'm with the world. I love you guys.
Yeah, the comments, the haters in the comments are having a little bit of a predicament here. They're saying fade toast at the same time. At the same time, they want to bet the Yankees. It's a rock and a hard place.
Curveballs, guys. You never know what you're going to get.
Bet Cleveland. Next. Mets up.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Well, let's see what the poll's saying. Go ahead, Toast.
Again, really quickly, just more of a play on the number than anything. I bet this as soon as the line came out with the Mets. I don't really put too much. We went over this last night, obviously. Don't put a ton of stock in what we saw yesterday. We saw the same thing in game 1, except it was 9. And the Mets came back and won the next game. So, again, it's really hard for me to worry about the Mets as far as not scoring any runs yesterday. And Quintana, you guys give me crap about it, but I've been riding this dude for a month, and he's been paying out all the time. So I get off every single time I ride Quintana. I don't know about you guys, but I happen to enjoy it a lot. So, and I also think that it's a really big situation. It's also a really big situation with Yamamoto. I said this last night. I think it's a huge difference pitching in that California dreamland in Dodger Stadium with sunny and 70 degrees, and then having to come out and pitch in the cold weather of the New York in front of a whole bunch of pissed off New York Mets fans. So, it's really hard. Stop. It's really hard. It's really hard not to. It's really hard not to play the Mets at this number. So they got to use all their rested bullpen arms and all that stuff last night. It's again. There's just no way I don't play the Mets today.
Yeah, of course it's Mets. Like I said, I don't have to give the same soliloquy that I gave before. This is the spot where the Mets show up in the spot where you don't expect it. First, it was. They flew across the country after a doubleheader in a terrible spot with the pitching disadvantage. Everyone takes the Brewers. Mets win. Then the Brewers win game 2. Game 3 in Milwaukee. The Mets used their entire bullpen. Everyone's like, oh, it's over. There's no way. Mets win. Then Phillies win game 2. They come back and they're like, that was the Mets shot. It's over. Mets win. This is a rinse, lather, repeat type process. And I like the fact that Yamamoto's pitching. Because this is when the Mets show up. This is when there's an ace on the mound and no one expects him to hit. They smack him around. So I am on the Mets.
Yeah, a couple other little trends a couple people sent me. Overs in game 4s of LCS have gone over 28, 7, and 1 to the over since 2006. So if you're looking to play a total or something like that, that might be another one to look at. And as far as the Cleveland game, the total's 10, 4, and 1 to the over when Cleveland is a home dog this season. Obviously, that number's changed a little bit, but just throwing that out there. I didn't have a play on either one of those totals, but yeah.
Someone said, so Kyle thinks because that happened, that fantasy is supposed to continue. No, but if you've been betting the way you're betting tonight, you're down playing against the fantasy. So you're down pretty bad fading it. So maybe you get a few dollars of your losses back fading the Mets, but they are the most profitable team over the last 3 months by far. So if you've been betting the Mets, you are up a pretty penny at the moment.
And also the last thing I just wanted to throw in for the Mets is we like to use our spreadsheets. Obviously, they absolutely kill Yamamoto's pitch mix. Vientos, JD Martinez, Francisco Lindor, Tyrone Taylor, even all really good numbers against his pitch mix. So again, it's more of a price thing than anything. I just wanted to throw that out there.
All right, let's move on to some NFL Thursday night football. Toast, talk to you later.
Have a good night, guys.
A real screamer of a game. The Saints practice squad taking the field against Denver.
Yeah, we've been talking about this one for weeks. Willie Lutz back in his old kicking grounds, you know.
This is serious shit right here. Everyone's talking about the Sean Payton revenge game. No, absolutely not. This is the Will Lutz revenge game. I mean, that's all New Orleans is thinking about. That was their team meeting earlier today, this morning. Their morning team meeting. How are we going to contain Will Lutz tonight? And,
how are we gonna I heard they were gonna slick the goalpost tonight. That was number one. Or they were gonna slick the goalpost.
Wait, slicking the goalpost help the kicker?
They were gonna slick the goalpost. They were gonna paint it a different shade of yellow, make it a bit more bright, so can't see as well. Just a couple things you got to do to keep Will Lutz off his game. It's going to be a crazy one out there tonight. So
I'm excited to see what they could possibly scheme up here to throw Will Lutz off in this revenge spot.
Yeah.
So you guys know I'm on the Broncos and I'm on Will Lutz over 1.5 field goals. We're joking around about Will Lutz revenge spot. Obviously, that's in jest, but the reason I liked it, now the price is way gone. Toast was telling me before that this is at minus 170 now. What the hell? I got it, I think minus 125 or minus 130. So
yeah, I'm joking about the splits aside, but obviously you have a good pick here with the CLV included. Minus 130, minus 170. Wowza.
Yeah, so I guess this bet is gone, but if you're wondering why I bet this, the Will Lutz over field goal, because I don't bet field goal props, is because I like Denver's offense to move the ball and this Saints defense that looks terribly, that's been playing terribly. Denver's been running the ball recently. Bo Nix coming off back-to-back games where he was pretty efficient. The Saints pass defense is a shell of itself. In fact, if you take out the week 1 game against Bryce Young, I was talking about this last night. If you take out the week one game against Bryce Young, Saints have one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL, and they have one of the worst run defenses in the NFL, period. This defense looks terrible. Denver, like I said, they've been running the ball a little bit. Bo Nix has been efficient. I think they'll be able to move the ball here. The problem is the Saints, there's one aspect of the Saints football team that you have to give them some credit on. They've been good in the red zone. I believe they're the second best red zone defense in the NFL this year, and the Broncos have struggled to finish drives. So I could see Denver moving the ball but getting stifled in field goal range, which is why I said, well, let's over 1.5 field goals made. But that's all irrelevant because that price is long gone. So hopefully you watched the video last night and got it, or you're in the Discord and got it. So, yeah. But anyway, as far as picking a side, I'm on Denver minus 2.5. Probably wouldn't lay the 3 if I'm being honest. Although, I mean, at minus 3, my picks. Oh, no, you could still get 2.5s.
I was going to say, you could still get 2.5s. 3, I think, is where you have to draw the line and say, this is not a game
like, what are we
betting.
doing here?
Yeah.
Let's relax. But, yeah, like I said, I think Denver's offense is able to move the ball. And that's in this matchup, that's all you need to hear, because on the other side of the ball, what's going on here? What are we what are we supposed to expect here from the Saints offense? This is a shell of the Saints. They're missing. All right, let's go through it. There's no Olave.
No Olave, no Shaheed,
no
Lucas Patrick.
Lucas Patrick is out? Is he officially out? Because that's crazy if he is.
I might have confused him, but I don't believe he is going. I got to be.
No, he's listed as questionable.
Oh, okay. Then there's no Eric McCoy. There's no Shane Lemieux. There's no Cesar Ruiz.
Yep. Taysom Hill.
No Taysom Hill.
Yeah. So this not only are they missing their quarterback, 3 of their main offensive weapons, their offensive line is decimated. And this is an offensive line that's been getting consistently cooked week in and week out. The reason you haven't really noticed it is Derek Carr is a guy who gets rid of the ball quickly. He's towards the top of the NFL in time to throw. Gets rid of the ball quickly, and a quarterback like that can hide your pass protection problems. They're not going to be able to hide here. I mean, Denver's pass rush is pretty good. It's a lot better than the numbers indicate. They've played, I think their last 3 games were all against top 10 pass protections. So this is a Denver's pass rush that might be undervalued. They blitz a lot, just like the Bucks did last week. They blitzed the shit out of Spencer Rattler last week, and he wasn't able to do. His numbers under pressure last week were terrible. Denver's defense is even better than the Bucks. So as far as the Saints offense, I'm a Spencer Rattler guy. I've been saying it since Oklahoma. I think he's pretty good. So this isn't a fade of Spencer Rattler. It's more a fade of the surrounding cast around Spencer Rattler. And look, I hate the idea of taking a road favorite that seems to be on the public side. Like, obviously, basic sports betting logic. You take the points with the home team here. Everyone's confident laying the points with the rookie quarterback in a primetime game. You take the points here. That's what you do. The problem is, if there's one head coach in the NFL that's good for blowing covers that they're supposed to get, it's Dennis Allen. I mean, I've lost so many bets with Dennis Allen when I was on the clear-cut sharp side against the public. Like, this dude loves losing to the public. So I don't trust Dennis Allen as a head coach either. So should be an ugly offensive game from the Saints, maybe a turnover or two. I trust Sean Payton to get his revenge here, and I trust Will Lutz. More importantly, I trust Will Lutz to get his revenge.
You got to trust the leg of Lutz. I mean, just a true machine. There's a reason why Peyton brought him over. First guy he signed, as soon as he went over to the Broncos. I don't know why I just put that on the screen.
I was going to say, you're against me?
No, I must have forgot to keep scrolling. So I did have the Saints team total over. Under 18.5 at -105. That's now at minus, I think, like 140. So that I'm not going to be giving out to you guys. Did find a great replacement play, though. I locked this in for a unit as well. Kamara under, it's now at 68.5 rushing yards. Some books have it at 66.5. I'm fine playing this down to 66.5. I think this dude's not going to do anything on the ground today. I love fading Kamara in this spot. This feels like a complete and utter overreaction to lack of weapons on the field for the Saints team. When there's no passing weapons on the field, sure, he should be the main guy getting the usage, but defenses can stack the box against you, and Kamara's just been so nightmarishly bad against stacked boxes this season. Against 8+ man boxes, the standard box, Kamara's averaging just 2.6 yards per carry amongst 32 backs with 14+ carries against 8-man boxes. That's 24th in the league, so really not good. On top of that, this is not a good matchup for Kamara in terms of the run blocking scheme. 74% of his rush attempts are zone looks. The Broncos have been excellent at defending zone looks thus far. 5th in yards per carry, 2nd in success rate compared to 11th and 9th against gap looks. And they've already been one of the better rush defenses in the league. 5th in yards per carry, 9th in adjusted line yards, 9th in rush defense grade, 5th in yards before contact allowed. And this is what I really like here. Let's look at some of the splits here. Without center Eric McCoy, not only a guy who affects Derek Carr, I've just found out, but Alvin Kamara as well, because without Eric McCoy, Kamara's gone under the mark his last 12 of 15 games, averaging just 52.3 yards per game. On top of that, let's look at the spread here. The Saints are 3-point dogs at home. In losses, Kamara's under 74% of games since 2021. I'm expecting an inefficient output for Kamara here with less than 4 yards per carry, under 21 to 25 games since 2021, averaging 46. Are you worried about Taysom Hill? Well, guess what? Under 7 to 8 games without Hill since 2023. And then this is what I think is the icing on the cake. He has 9 primetime games since 2021. 9-0 to the under, averaging just 37 yards per game. So
he's never gone over. Wait, hold on. He's never gone over his total once at a primetime game.
Nope. He's done tons in the receiving game. Like he really gets busy in the receiving game in primetime, but for some reason they just don't run the ball with this dude in primetime. So I really, really like this under. I kind of just stumbled into it, but I actually like it a lot more than the team total under. I almost wish I made this my bigger play, but yeah, really like Kamara under yards today.
All right. I actually said on the bet report I posted on the website, I put at the bottom, if you're looking for a prop, I would look towards Saints unders, maybe Kamara under rushing. So I actually typed that as a possible on the thing. So I'm in agreement. The only thing someone just said Kamara gets 16+ carries. That would be the only way I see you're getting screwed if they just feed the shit.
32 yards.
What?
I said that's dope. 16 carries, 32 yards. I mean, this is one of the least efficient running backs in the NFL. I've seen it plenty of times from Kamara. This is just not an efficient running back. We've seen him get plenty of volume before and failed to hit lines like this. So, 68.5. That's super high. You need a lot of volume, or you need to be very efficient to hit that line. I don't think he's going to be either in this one, especially if they're trailing like I think they will be, and you do. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Prop Beaver. Shall we talk some college football?
Yes, sir.
In this first game, man. I actually have a bet on this game, too, which is like, why did I do this? Why did I bet the Georgia State-Marshall game?
And Drewski says that Gruden's on the Broncos, so you know where my heart lies. Got me feeling nice.
Gruden loves footballs on the Broncos?
Yep. Got me feeling nice.
You guys, if you guys haven't watched that channel, oh, man.
We need to do a collab.
Lindy's on the Kamara's over.
In what, rushing?
I don't know. It's what someone said.
We need to have a discussion with Lynn Dog.
I didn't see it personally. I'm just reading off a comment. Someone that might
he is. I did a show with him literally right before this, and that's his play.
He's on Kamara over rushing.
Yep.
Oh
Prayers
man.
for him.
I'm actually on Kamara 40+ receiving, if it means anything.
See, there you go. Good for you. Now that's what we call a smart play, Lord BLT.
All right. So first up, Georgia State, Marshall. If you guys watched the video I uploaded last night, you know that I laid the 8.5 with Marshall here. I'm not going to go out on a rampage and talk about the Georgia State-Marshall game for an extended period of time. Basically, I like the way Marshall's offense has looked with this new quarterback system. They're mixing in both guys now. One guy's mobile. The other guy's something of a pocket passer. Either way, they should be 2-0 since they started doing this. The only reason that they lost the last game was on that miracle Georgia Southern late comeback. This Georgia State team, I feel like that Vanderbilt upset is kind of painting them in a different light than what this is not a good team. They try to throw the ball a lot. They're not particularly good at it. They don't have the run game to really stay on the field here. I think Marshall should win this one comfortably. And if it wasn't for that, I think this number might be close to 10 if it wasn't for that late blown lead to Georgia Southern by Marshall. So I think the market's just a little off on this one. I think this should be 10. So I am holding a Marshall minus 8.5 ticket. Again, these midweek group of 5 games, by no means am I sitting here saying, you guys got to bet this. I bet it. You make your own decision. It's not a heavy bet or anything. I laid the points with Marshall, though. Any of you guys want to talk about it?
I'll talk about it. I'm trying to get to the window on AJ Turner. Haven't quite got there yet. I am going to bet on AJ Turner rushing in some aspect. I'm either going to take 84.5 rushing yards or drop him down to 65 and Marshall money line. Marshall run the ball a ton. I think they're 100th in rush rate over expected, which means they're running the ball 58% of the plays. But what's also really nice about that is they're also really fast. They play fast but run a lot, which is good, which means you'll get more chances to run the ball with your lead back. AJ Turner's hitting this number. We'll talk about his base in every game but 2. The 2 that he didn't hit were against App State and Ohio State. Against now he has a Georgia State team that is really bad against the run and often gets in negative game scripts. So it's a really good situation for a team that's going to want to run the ball. And when they bring in, I'm drawing a blank on his name, the quarterback.
There's Braylon Braxton, and then there's
Braxton. Yeah.
Stoner.
It helps the run game as well too. So for me, I think that's my favorite play. I do lean Marshall laying the points, but I would probably rather get involved in the prop market here. These like Thursday, Wednesday games are funny because I think a lot of people really want to be like have action on a side, and normally we've seen these teams don't execute, and that's how you lose these spreads. You're like, wait, I thought this team was so much better. Yeah, well, there's a reason why they are 3-3 or whatever their record is at the time.
Yep, I 100% agree. That's why there's not a serious amount of my money on this game. What about Scoop?
Yeah, so besides that Vanderbilt game, Georgia State's looked pretty bad. I know Marshall hasn't looked amazing. I mean, they should be on a 3-game winning streak, though. I had Georgia Southern last week. Marshall gave up 21 in the fourth there, and that was a rough loss for them. But here I like the over. I do agree if I was taking a side, I would take Marshall. Georgia State's 105th against the rush, a little better at defending the pass, but they have so many holes in that defense. And Stone back there, he's been having a ton of time. Now, I think Braylon Braxton's a better quarterback, but I know they've been splitting time. But this offensive line's allowed only 1 sack on the year, so they've been having a great time on the offensive line. I think these are pretty poor defenses. Marshall's been giving up more points. Georgia State's been giving up more yards. Without that offensive line and pass protection, AJ Turner's been having Ashton Genty type yards per carry. He's averaging like 10 yards a carry right now. And now they're playing a Georgia State team who just can't tackle or defend the run at all. They're bottom 20th in rushing success rate. They're 116th in EPA per rush. So yeah, Marshall has a worse defense than last year. I think Below will be able to get some openings on the field because Marshall's 97th in defensive success rate themselves. Overall, though, Marshall has a way better offense and a way better running game, so they should be able to cover here. And I think that number is too low for the total, so I'm going to go over.
Andy?
I didn't bet this game either. I'm probably not going to. I would just lean over with him. I think that Georgia State could get stuck in a very tough spot. They like to throw the ball, and if they're not getting first downs and they're having to punt the ball, I think Marshall's going to run the ball all over them. So I don't want to. I'll protect myself from the fact that these midweek games are very weird, and I would just lean the over because I think Marshall might just keep scoring, but Georgia State will be playing catch up, so maybe they'll start getting some on the backups. So I'll just lean over. I don't like this game compared to the other ones. So
something I forgot to mention before, and in regards to Marshall's numbers on the year, that Ohio State game is skewing their it's to an insane amount. When me and Andy made that video last night, we took their numbers, their numbers against the pass, their rushing numbers, basically every single aspect of the game, and we took the Ohio State game out, and it looks completely different. They actually have really nice pass defense numbers against teams not named Ohio State. So, and same goes for their run game. They're averaging like 6.2 yards per carry in games not against Ohio State. So with a team like Marshall that has a road game in Columbus, that data point should just be thrown out, honestly. And it doesn't matter if this is the best Marshall team we've seen in 15 years. They're still going to get their asses beat in Columbus. That's just going to happen. They just don't have the talent to play in that game. So when me and Andy removed that data point, it gave me a lot more confidence in this Marshall team. So yeah, I don't hate the over, but I truly think that Marshall's defense is a little bit undervalued too. So, but yeah, I wouldn't hate an over either though. Let's move on to the better game of the two, which is ACC. Boston. Is it still 7.5? It was 7.5 earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I see an 8. A couple 8s. DraftKings Bet365 has 8 now. I do not get it. Man, I was a little, I wouldn't say skeptical, but I thought it was a little high at 6.5 early in the week. I think this number should be like 4.5. Now, Scoop, you were saying in the group text last night, or maybe this is in the Discord, I forget where you said it, but you were saying that Boston College is out of corner, right?
Yeah, they're out there. Their biggest corner, Amari Jackson, but Virginia Tech's a run first team anyway. So
yeah, and that's kind of what it came down to for me. Well, I'll let these guys go first for this one. Brad, Andy, any of you guys want to go?
I'll be quick. I don't have much for this game. I do certainly lean Boston College, but it's just Thomas Castellanos coming off an injury, and how effective can he be in this game? But I just it just comes down to me really trusting. That's funny. I'm about to say these words, but trusting Bill O'Brien to keep this game at a manageable level. He's normally a coach that has disciplined sides. Execution, we're going to say that word a lot because this is like the time where we're in college football where executing is really important. Virginia Tech, on the other hand, is not always as disciplined. They are finally starting to get in like a groove, but I'm just not like Virginia Tech's not the kind of team that I want to lay 9.5, whatever the number is. I think it's at 8.5 now. 8.5 points, like that's just way too high. A lot of love fading a team that's getting arguably their most important player back. But I just don't know how much, I just don't know the actual health of Thomas Castellanos. So that's why I'm just passing on this.
I said the same thing last night, and I will say it's a little worrisome. It seems like now not that this should influence your bet one way or the other. It seems like in terms of the public betting space that everyone's on Boston College here. We're polling at 70% to 17% Boston College. Not that our 1,100 viewers are a respectable sample size, but just in terms of what I'm seeing on Twitter, what I've seen on YouTube, it seems like everybody is taking Boston College here, yet the line has been just clearly moving towards Virginia Tech, indicating that the sharp action would be on that side. Not that that's necessarily exactly what it means, but it does worry me a bit. But personally, a big factor for me was I think this Virginia Tech secondary might be a little questionable here. If you take a look at their pass defense numbers by game, they were absolutely dominant against Marshall, against Old Dominion, and against Stanford. Stanford didn't have Ashton Daniels in that game. So it was against Stanford's backup quarterback. Absolutely dominant in those 3 games. Against Miami, okay. But Vanderbilt and Rutgers, Miami, Vanderbilt, Rutgers. In those 3 games, Virginia Tech allowed 10.6 yards per pass attempt. Their pass defense looked terrible in those 3 games. And it's what makes it weird is the strength of this Virginia Tech defense is probably the pass rush. They got an NFL kid. What's his name, Andy? He's got like 8 sacks already. I forget his name. They have an NFL edge rusher there who's one of the leaders in sacks in the country. I can't think of his name. He's got a hyphen name. But they have this elite pass rush or very good pass rush, and they still have gotten cooked in their 3 biggest games through the air. Just cooked. 10.6 yards per pass attempt. So that puts us in a weird position because now we have Castellanos, who's very capable of making big plays through the air. The reason I'm a little hesitant here. The variance with a guy on like Castellanos is insane. This guy could throw 2 80-yard touchdowns tonight. He could also throw 2 pick sixes tonight, and neither would surprise me at all. Very high turnover-worthy play rate. He's either going to make huge plays or he's going to throw pick sixes. And a guy like that can turn a 17-14 football game into a 30-17 football game very quickly. So that's why, even though it's like 7.5, how do you not take Boston College? Well, the entire world's taking Boston College, and Castellanos might not even be healthy, and with that pass rush can very easily make mistakes. So there's no way I'm taking Virginia Tech, but I don't really... I also, defensively, Boston College defensive front 7 surprisingly good this year. We knew they would be improved, but I don't think any of us were expecting it to be this good. This is one of the better run defenses in the ACC this year, Boston College. I think they're like 21st in the country in yards per carry allowed. And the reason that's significant, Kyron Jones not really developing as a passer the way we expected. I mean, he's still a crazy athlete. This Virginia Tech team can still run the ball. In fact, the last 4 games, the run game looks really good. That's probably a reason why this number's up over 7 is they started to run the ball. I don't know how much success they're going to have running the ball in Boston College. Kyron Jones is going to have to throw it. He hasn't really shown us much that we can rely on him to do that. So it would have to be Boston College. I don't have any money on it currently. I'm a little hesitant. I'm scared. I'll come out and say it. I'm scared.
Very scared. Well, just wait. Like, if this line just keeps going up, you're going to get to a point where you're just going to have to take Boston College.
Well, if it hits 10, how about... It's not going to hit 10, but if it hits 10, I'm in. How about that? That's a safe ultimatum to throw out there. If it hits 10, I'm in. Scoop?
Yeah, I think this line's just too... it's just too large. Boston College has kept every single game close. That Virginia game last week, they were up by 5 in the 4th. Castellanos had a really dumb fumble. Even Malachi Fields threw a 30-yard pass that game to set up a field goal. So everything went wrong for Boston College. But here I feel like these teams are too closely matched for a 7.5-point spread. I know Boston College, like I said, is down their best corner, but Virginia Tech is a run-first team by a large margin. In fact, Virginia Tech is 16th out of 17th in the ACC in passing yards per game. So while that corner will be a big loss in the long run, that's not going to have much of an impact on this game. So while this Virginia Tech team will run, Boston College is still 25th in yards per carry as a defense on the run and 12th in success rate defending that run. So Castellanos actually is becoming more of a passer, which is weird. He had more success at UCF running the ball. Some of that might be due to injury, but he said he's ready to go coming off this bye. He has a ton of weapons. Obviously, Lewis Bond's his biggest one if he's throwing the ball. I don't think they'll throw much here because Virginia Tech's pass rush is pretty great. I mean, it's one of the best in the country. But like he said, I don't know, but I trust Bill O'Brien. I don't trust him as a GM. I obviously trust him as a coach. He's a good coach. He'll have a game plan here. Let's not forget Rutgers put up 31 on Virginia or 26 on Virginia Tech in a primarily rushing attack. So And they didn't even look good against Marshall, Virginia Tech throwing the ball. So as long as Boston College doesn't commit dumb turnovers, this game should come down to the end. I think this will be close.
Yeah, agreed. I just hate that everyone's taking it. It feels like someone in the comments asked if BLT has a YouTube channel. He works with NBC Sports, but actually at the end he'll tell you where you can find his stuff. We have 3 more games, and then he'll tell you where to find stuff. But Andy,
I'm gonna be on the opposite side. Look, BC had a really cool start to the season. It was a good story. The last time that they played a really good half of football, and I mean like top tier half of football, was September 14th against Missouri. The first half, they had a really good first half, and then they blew it and lost the game 27-21. Since then, Michigan State's been a joke since that game. They've been awful. Western Kentucky nearly beat them. I know Castellanos was out, but they still played the game and they nearly lost. Probably should have lost. And then Virginia beat them, who Virginia's a little bit more talented than I maybe expected them to be, or anybody expected them to be, but they're not, great. Virginia Tech, on the other hand, they're coming off their 2 best games. They nearly beat Miami. They probably should have. And then they crushed Stanford. So I think you got 2 teams going into different trajectories. And I think the problem for Boston College is, and Scoop noted, they're throwing the ball a lot more. They're really successful throwing the ball, but that's not their game, right? They've run for 2.2 yards per carry, 3.5 yards per carry, 3.5. And then they're throwing the ball for a ton, 8.8 yards per attempt, 8.5. Like, they're throwing the ball well, but that's not their game. They're getting away from their game, and I think that's an issue. And I don't think that that's the way that they need to play. And if they're going to run the ball more, I don't necessarily think it's going to be successful here against Virginia Tech. So I don't love the matchup overall, and I think you have 2 teams going in complete opposite directions. So I think Virginia Tech's finally playing like maybe I expected and a lot of people expected them to play. So I like Virginia Tech here.
I would argue with you about this, but I actually didn't bet the game. So it sounds like you're more confident on your side than I am. So, all right, let's move on to, we got 3 more games to get to. And I'm interested what Brad has to say about this one, because he, in the DM to me when he let me know what games he wanted to talk about, he chose this one. The other 2, I'm like, yeah, cool, I'm down to talk about those. This one I thought was interesting, and me and Andy talked about it briefly. Am I crazy to say that if you're looking for a big dog to take a shot on, that UCF might be worth a glance? Am I crazy to say that?
You're absolutely crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the magic is gone for this UCF team. And I want to preface this by saying I am sitting here in my studio in Orlando as a former student athlete of UCF. So I'm not saying this with any bias. Like, it's if I had any lean towards UCF, I would probably take it. But this is pretty much writing on the wall that this is a pack it in season for UCF. Made the change at quarterback last week against Cincinnati. KJ Jefferson wasn't getting the job done, but it had kind of been that way since the opening game. They scored 51 points, but in the first half, KJ Jefferson had like 30 yards in the entire first half. And then, they were kind of getting carried by the running game there. And it's tough, right? They're number 1 in the country in offensive success rate. They're in rushing offensive success rate, super explosive in the run, but they're so one-dimensional. They bring in Ja'Cory Brown, who is just kind of wet behind the ears, like inexperienced, not quite where they want him to be, but they had to make something to try to salvage the season. And it didn't work, right? They play against Cincinnati. Cincinnati ends up winning that game. In the last 3 games that UCF has played, they scored 21, 13, and 13 points. This is a team that plays fast and wants to score a lot. When you're playing fast and want to score a lot and you're only scoring an average of like 18.5 points, like you're not in for a recipe for success here. Now they're playing against an Iowa State team that, at the beginning of the season, I faded Iowa State. I came on here and I bet Iowa, and all you guys were like, what the hell are you doing? You should bet Iowa State. And I remember that. And I was like, wow, Iowa sucks. But as the season progresses, we start to notice stuff about Iowa State that really gets us excited. Number 1, everyone wants to say Rocco Beck is going to take the next step. I think he has. He's so far this season, 11 plays. He's had a 50-yard pass or more so far this season. He's a really good staple. They have a complement of 2 or 3 really good running backs that anytime could be deployed. But it's not going to be the running game that is going to be the effectiveness of this game. It's going to be the passing game of Rocco Beck. And the second thing that I really like, and it's kind of coupled with Ja'Cory Brown playing in this game, if Iowa State's able to stop the run. They have one of the best defenses, especially at taking the ball away in the country. So far this season, they lead the Big 12 in turnover margin. +9 is their turnover margin. They have a crazy amount of interceptions this season, something in like 20 or like some ridiculous, insane number, right? And that's a problem, right? They load the box and they're going to say, beat us through the air. I'm laying the 13.5 with confidence. This was
confidence
close to being my best bet of the week. The only thing is if there's a little bit of a second week, like find something in practice that UCF, might find. But two things I want to say also for anybody who's worried about laying 13.5 points with Iowa State. Their average margin of victory so far this season, 19.7. They're +6.3 to the spread, which means they're covering spreads by 6.3 points or more.
I am definitely taken off guard by that. When he said, when I read that he wanted to talk about this game, I knew that he was a Central Florida alum. So I was like, okay, maybe he's going to have some insight on this new quarterback. Maybe he likes an angle here. I was not expecting you to go with Coach Campbell. And he said with confidence. He said those words, with confidence.
The complete opposite of what you thought he was going to do.
The opposite of what I thought he was going to say. Scoop, are you with him?
This is also one of my favorite bets of the week is Iowa State -13.5.
Wow.
Brad pretty much said everything I was going to. I'm a big fan of this Iowa State team. First 6-0 start since 1938. Minimum wage was 25 cents then. So the question I was thinking is, do I lay 13.5? I mean, yeah, this UCF team is just not the same UCF team as last year. Their offense is broken the last couple of weeks. They did bench J.J. Jefferson for Ja'Cory Brown, which was probably the right move. But the last 3 games, they're a middle-of-the-road offense. This Iowa State team, I mean, kind of like their basketball team from last year, relied on defense to start the season, but really they're coming alive on the offensive side of the ball. I'm pretty ashamed with Kyle. We're big Matt Campbell fans here at the Sauce Network. So this team is just better in all 3 phases of the game. They're playing at home. They have a newer quarterback now with UCF. Iowa State's 15th in defense. They're going to play in a tough road environment. And Rocco Beck is having an awesome season. So Gus Malzahn seems lost right now. I think this is going to be an absolute blowout.
So here's something I'll add. So first of all, I didn't do a full deep dive on this game at all. I threw UCF up there as like a kind of prerequisite. I thought that's what Brad was about to say. So I will say I do see a path. We've seen Iowa State get run on a couple times this year. Iowa was able to run the ball on Iowa State a little bit. West Virginia was able to run the ball on Iowa State. Look, this is a very good defense, but we've seen a rushing attack have some success running the ball on Iowa State. And at UCF, as bad as they've been, the games where they've gotten blown out, it wasn't that the rushing attack really failed, more so than they got down early and kind of had to abandon it in a way. So I do see a path where UCF comes out here and hands the ball off. But, I mean, what Brad said about the turnovers is huge. Are they going to be able to protect the football? But I do see a path to UCF handing the ball off, just grinding out 4.2 yards per carry, keeping Rocco Beck on the sideline and keeping it somewhat competitive. But, I mean, on the other side, UCF hasn't shown us any inkling that they can stop the pass. Rocco Beck at home here should have a perfect passer rating. So I get why they would be on that side. They're a lot more confident than me. I didn't even... You can actually take mine down. take my plus 13.5 down. I don't even want it up there.
Speaking of Rocco Beck, if anybody who likes the player prop market, his number opened so low. I don't know what it's at, but it opened at like a staggering like 240 or 236. I still play that like up to 250, and it's that's kind of low. I thought again. They had to be low because they had to price out 2 running backs that are going to be in the 50s and 60s.
Mm-hmm. Well, are they saying that maybe it's going to be over early and they're going to take him out in the third quarter?
That's what I think the line's probably saying.
Because I mean,
like
on
be a
paper,
controlled game.
On paper, Rocco Beck should complete 70% of his passes in 10 yards per. Like it should be no sweat. We've seen this dude go on the road in Kinnick and throw on Iowa's secondary. Like, no problem here. What about Fillmore?
I'll be honest. I was just kind of hoping that one of them sold me on it. I was leaning toward UCF, but after hearing all this, I have no interest in betting this game. And that's rare. I try to bet as many as possible, but this UCF team, they were actually having success on the ground with KJ Jefferson, and then that kind of just went away last week. They had a 40% success rate on the ground. So, like, you lose your quarterback and now you can't run the ball. I really don't know what they're going to be able to do. Down the stretch in their game against Cincinnati, they were close. They were completing some deep passes and they got themselves in the game. They were actually in position where if they had a timeout, they might have had a shot to win. But you can't bank on that happening again against a better defense. So I would lean with these guys because they just seem so in on it.
All right, let's move on to the next game. We got the two big ones coming up, the two big SEC games. Alabama, Tennessee, and I got Alabama -2.5. No, I'm sorry. Let me correct that. I bet Alabama money line at -134. I think is the actual bet I'm holding. I'm pretty confident in it. I mean, I guess everyone's going to be betting Alabama. I don't really care. Just straight up, I think Alabama's the much better team here. Yes, has Alabama's pass defense looked extremely suspect the last few games? Of course it has. I'm not arguing that, and I'm not saying it's something we should brush off. But for everything I just said about the Alabama passing attack, the pass defense looking a little suspect and maybe shaking our confidence a little bit in Alabama, copy and paste that and times it by 2 when we're talking about the Tennessee offense. What is going on here? Nico was looking like, oh my God, a freshman might win the Heisman this year after 3 weeks. That passing attack looks non-existent. This Tennessee team is really having problems, struggling. Alabama up. I'll let Brad talk because he's the Alabama guy, but I'm not going to sit here and talk about Alabama. I'm on Alabama. I already put a video up on it. You guys know why. I don't think Tennessee's any good, honestly.
I do think Alabama win and cover this game. It's kind of sad for Tennessee because you bring in your rival on the third Saturday of October in one of your biggest rivalry games, and you want to replicate what happened the last time you hosted them. But this is a different team. Hendon Hooker was balling in that game. It was an absolute dog fight shootout. Lack of explosiveness for Tennessee. Tennessee's biggest weapon is their defense, right? Second in the country in defensive success rate. They're second in the country in EPA margin on defense. But you get dealt a massive blow with Keenan Peely out, torn ACL, middle linebacker. He's third on the team in tackles. He's their first on the team in tackles, third on run D support. So that's what they hung their hat on. You couldn't run the ball on them, and they made tackles at the second level. Yes, the D-line's really good, but I actually think Alabama playing against South Carolina with the dual bookends was the best thing that can happen for them and Sheridan, the offensive coordinator, because that will be the best pass rush they're going to see all season. So they've lived it. They've lived in hell of constantly having someone in the backfield. Also, this Alabama team's super explosive, right? Fourth in explosive play rate. Fourth or fifth. I've actually seen contradicting numbers there, which is pretty funny. But fourth in explosive play rate on offense. Another addition that I think has gone unnoticed, Kendrick Law is going to be back for Alabama. And people might say, what the heck are you talking about, a wide receiver with who probably only has like 10 targets all season? He's actually one of those guys who helps the ground game very much so, one of the best blocking wide receivers on this team. That's where the explosiveness was missing from the Alabama offense, was they were explosive through the air, but not explosive on the ground. He kind of helps that out there. The bet that I'm actually going to advocate here is Jamarian Miller, over 41.5 rushing yards. He went over in every single game except the one against Georgia. That one just became an absolute, if you took us over, it was absolutely bonkers, right? Like, you got pretty screwed in that. But it's really a reliance of he's gonna get the runs. They're gonna be explosive, and then the best run stopper on Tennessee at the second level is gonna be out. So we know there's gonna be a lot of those stuff runs, right? Like, that's gonna happen. That's what Tennessee does. But it's when they get to that next level, can Jam Miller get those extra 5 yards, and those kind of add up. So I went with this over 41.5 rushing yards as my best play. But I'll say this: Alabama 6-2 against the spread in their last 8 against Tennessee. Won 16 of the last 17. I really plan on smoking a nice cigar as tradition at the end of the game.
As is tradition. It's something I want to say about the Tennessee pass defense. So in their last 2 games, Arkansas averaged 9.9 yards per attempt, 53.1% success rate. Arkansas cooked on Tennessee's pass defense. And how did they follow that up? Graham Mertz was 11 of 15, 125 yards, a touchdown, a 165 passer rating. Florida was up 10-0 when he got hurt. If Graham Mertz doesn't get hurt, we're looking at a Tennessee team that's lost back-to-back games against Arkansas and Florida. Not to mention the offense looked awful in the Oklahoma game too. If it wasn't for Oklahoma's god-awful quarterback situation, might even be 3 games that we're looking. I mean, it's been almost. We're coming up on a month since we've seen Tennessee look like a decent football team. I don't hold this Tennessee's team.
Run game has been bad too.
Horrible.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's just nothing alluring about this Tennessee team. I don't think they're good. I think they have a good defensive front. They have a good run defense. That's it. Their offense is bad. Their pass defense is really bad. So, yeah, I think Alabama's a full touchdown better than this team.
Yeah, is anyone buying into the Nico overrated hype with me yet?
Yep.
And I said 3 weeks ago.
How about Nico's a freshman rather than Nico's overrated?
Nah, overrated.
So maybe we should pump the brakes on Heisman winner. Oh my God, Nico.
No one here said that.
He's looked like shit. So he great against non-conference teams and FCS teams, not good against SEC defenses. He's had 1 touchdown and averaging 174 yards in his 3 conference games. Great, good for him. Again, not trashing him. Yeah, the guy's a freshman. So he's going to grow a lot. Like you saw Raiola in Nebraska, he's having some bad games. But I know Bama hasn't looked good in 2 weeks. They haven't looked like – Tennessee hasn't looked good either. So I trust that offense more than Tennessee's. Tennessee had 25 or fewer points in 3 straight games. They haven't reached 20 in the regulation in the last 2. I actually didn't realize until I read it. But, yeah, Tennessee, 3 straight games where the opponent had to change its quarterback. Oklahoma – Arkansas, and then Florida due to injury. So Tennessee's, defensive front creates a ton of pressure. He's awesome. They're awesome at rushing the quarterback, tackles for loss. But Milroe hasn't been bad at all making a decision, and he's been great under pressure. So, I believe in Tennessee's defense more than Alabama, but Tennessee's really struggling offensively. I don't see anything they're doing right. Dylan Sampson's awesome, but using Dylan Sampson worked against previous teams, but Alabama's defensive strength is up front. They're one of the best rush defensive grades in the country, so I think they're kind of undervalued too. So, I would take Bama here just because Tennessee's offense just doesn't look right now.
Andy?
Are there 2 different football teams than Alabama in the first half against Georgia and Alabama since this first half? They've been crazy, but if...
Wait, it was Alabama up until 2 minutes left to go.
Yeah, pretty much.
They were great until then.
Yeah, but... if they're not woken up now, then I don't know that they ever will be. I think they're going to come into this one different energy. Look, these guys said it all. They're a better team than Tennessee. Tennessee... they did a lot of what Ole Miss does, and I know Brad probably knows this. You guys know this from watching college football. Some teams, and Ole Miss is really good at it, you play a bunch of really, really bad teams, beat the crap out of them, and your numbers look great, right? And that's what Tennessee did. They played Chattanooga. They had NC State, I guess they weren't trying to play a bad team there. They just got unfortunate that NC State's awful.
Nah, bro, they played Kent State.
Yeah, they had Kent State too. What a tough matchup. So yeah, they just played some bad teams. They got their numbers up, and I think we overrated them a little bit. Like coming into this season, was anybody really looking at them as the top tier SEC team? No, they were tier 2 in the SEC. They were with Ole Miss. They were with Texas A&M. That's who they are, right? Alabama's a different level. Alabama's coming off now really 2 weeks of not playing well, although they should have gone up 14-0 to the half against South Carolina, but that's beyond itself. So I just think this is a different level of talent, and they're going to wake up. Look, going on the road to Neyland's not easy, but it's definitely a wake-up call for them, and they've started well in 2 of the last 3 games. So I 100% think they're going to come into this and be the Alabama that we've seen. We saw against Georgia, right? They came into that game. That was a huge game, not a letdown spot. The other 2 were, and they were up 28-0 before I even sat down. So it's just a team that's starting fast, and I think in a game that matters like this, they're going to come out and be fine.
All right, let's move on to the last game of the day. And Andy, you can keep the mic because we're talking about your Bulldogs.
Yeah, talk about
and what the hell is going on. I'm going to throw in a piece of nicotine gum for this one. I don't know what's going on with this line. I did a YouTube video on this one. I didn't even know what to say. I was like, I guess you take Georgia. How do you not take 4.5 points with a team that hasn't lost a football game to a team not named Alabama in 4 years? It's been 4 years since Georgia lost a football game to a team not named Alabama. And now we're going to bet on them to lose by margin? It just seems crazy. I don't have a bet on it yet. I'm listening. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah. So, I mean, coming into this one, it's pretty clear. It doesn't get lower than the thoughts about Georgia right now, right?
Oh, well, I mean, it could get lower. They could lose.
Yeah, fair. No, but I mean, coming in, I mean, this is not what people expected, right? Losing to Alabama, giving up 374 passing yards, 11.3 yards per attempt, a 62% success rate for Jalen Milroe in Alabama. Like that doesn't happen against Georgia. They followed it up. They played fine against Peyton Thorne and Auburn, right? People have said because they didn't blow Auburn out, they played poorly. They looked fine. Last week concerned me though, right? Mississippi State was doing whatever they wanted through the air late in that game, and it was a little concerning. And Van Buren was kind of running the ball a little bit, which is what we expect from him. But like, I'm just the same as everybody else. I don't know how Georgia's defense has played this poorly. The talent is there. They're all 5 stars. Like these aren't 2 stars getting cooked. These are all 5 stars getting cooked by guys. So from that standpoint, is the defense you just have to expect at some point is going to play better. But the bigger question for me in this game is, are we really buying that Texas's team overall is this good, right? They're the number 1 team in the country right now, and everybody's just assuming they're the most elite team. Well, what have they really done to prove that? They played Colorado State, they played Michigan, they played UTSA, they played Louisiana Monroe, Mississippi State, who's the worst team in the SEC, and Oklahoma, who looks like a joke. Not a single team on that list is near the level of Georgia. Whether you think Georgia's as good as they have been made out to be or not, they're clearly better and miles better than all of those teams.
What's Texas' toughest game? Michigan?
The toughest game is probably Michigan, and that wasn't tough because they can't throw. So now you have Carson Beck, who besides one half of football against Alabama, where I don't know what he was doing in that half. He looked like he had the yips. He looked awful. Besides one half of football, he's been a Heisman candidate. So it's Texas's first real test. It's not really Georgia's first real test. They've had Clemson, Alabama, Auburn's a rivalry game, and they had to fight for that one late, but they did win it. So, I mean, like, this isn't Georgia's first rodeo here. So I think this is going to be a game where you have a team that's going to start quickly. I think Georgia's going to have a good first half. Maybe it gets close at the end, but I think Georgia wins it. So getting Kirby Smart as an underdog is a crazy thing to say, but you're getting him at more than a field goal. You have to take it. So Georgia.
You can put Georgia up for me. There's no way I'm laying 4.5 to Georgia. What are you, nuts? So yeah, of course, Georgia. Brad?
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. This look-ahead line was like 1.5, then went to 2.5 on the look-ahead line about 4 weeks ago. Now it got up to 4.5. It almost someplace got up to 5.
I saw 5.
You as a bettor, you just can't bet that, right? Like you can't take it. I'd lean towards Georgia here. I was going to give out a couple plays. One of them got crushed, which was given. I gave it out on NBC Sports. That was ETN's rushing under. It's all the way down to like 64.5. It was 72.5. But there's still some Carson Beckage out there. Carson Beck over 265.5 passing yards. I'm taking that first and foremost. Obviously, if I'm going to fade the running game of Georgia, I'm going to pass. I'm going to say, hey, they're going to pass the ball. They're going to attempt to pass the ball. I think at the Alabama game, we saw something from this Georgia team. Obviously, it helps a lot when you're put in that situation by a 28-point deficit. But it was, let's get back to what we were doing before. That was letting Carson Beck dictate the offense, throw the ball, get it out of his hands quick, and take our shots. It was too much in the beginning of the season where they were just trying to do something that wasn't working, and that was running the ball. Now 23rd in rush rate over expected. They're throwing the ball the 23rd most in the country. Carson Beck has gone over against Clemson, Alabama, where he threw for 400 plus, Mississippi State threw for 459, and I just think that, Carson Beck, without getting into the weeds too much, really good at playing football. right? He gets the ball out quick, but it's not quick, short passes. He gets the ball out in under 2.3 seconds, but he still has an ADOT of 9.9, right? So he's throwing the ball down the field. Well, to couple that, his adjusted completion percentage is 75.6. So the dude is throwing the ball downfield while completing passes and getting it out quick. So that kind of neutralizes the pass rush. It also makes life more difficult for Texas. Also, people I don't think are really paying attention, but Texas is starting to have injuries pile up quietly, right? Like we already knew about the injuries in the run game early in the season. The Blue came in, the other guy came in, they're effective. Then now Isaiah Bond, their leading target getter, got banged up last game. Don't know the health of this. Quinn Ewers at one point got injured. Didn't look good in his first half back. So it could be closer than a lot of people think, but my primary bet, my favorite bet is Carson Beck over 265.5 passing yards.
Yeah, so someone in the comments was saying everyone's got to be on Georgia here, and no, I think there's a lot of people that
A lot on Texas.
maybe are either just getting into college football or just paying attention to this year. I'm going to make an NFL metaphor, and I want you to picture something. The Chiefs lose back-to-back games. Would you then lay 4.5 points to Mahomes? Because Georgia is most definitely the Chiefs of college football. In the last 3 seasons, they have 3 losses total, all to Alabama. In the last 3 full seasons of football, they are 29, 42, 47 and 3. All 3 of their losses are to Alabama. This team doesn't lose football games. So, I mean, like a lot of people, and it was kind of like last week when I took USC plus 5.5 against Penn State. People are like, when it's just like, are you just watching this year? Because, like, this is a crazy number to lay on the road with Penn State. And I think a lot of people are just basing their analysis on this game on what they've seen in the last 5 games and not incorporating what these teams are and what they're made up of. Because this Georgia team, it's like they're the most talented team in the country. Yes, Texas has looked like the best team in the country, and as of right now, based on what we've seen, you'd have to say Texas is the best team in the country. But I mean, that'd be like if the Chiefs are 4-2 and be like, best team in the league's the Eagles. When it's like, well, yeah, the Chiefs lost like a couple of football games. They're probably still the best. Like it's football, teams lose. Yeah. But yeah, so it'll definitely be Georgia. Scoop.
Yeah, this game's going to be awesome, but this new number 1 team has a bad beat going for them right now. Georgia lost as the number 1. Bama lost as the number 1. Now Texas is up here. Georgia's been super inconsistent. But when it comes down to it, who has Texas faced so that you trust them laying 4.5 to Georgia? I really like this Texas team, but the 2 toughest teams they played were Michigan and Oklahoma, 2 teams that don't have an offense to compete with anyone. They don't have quarterbacks. So actually, this Texas team, if you look at it, hasn't faced an offense ranked in the top 70 yet in this whole year. So while I do trust that they have a great defense, I'm not sure it's properly rated yet. Plus, did you know Steve Sarkisian had never had a top 25 defense ever in all of his years coaching? This is the only time right now, and they haven't played anyone. So Georgia coming in while they're struggling, they have a solid offense, mostly their passing game. Kirby Smart's a good coach. He knows how to plan for these games. He's going to throw stuff at Texas they haven't seen before. And Carson Beck is such a big step up in competition from the cupcakes quarterbacks that Texas has faced so far. So I am definitely on Georgia here. I think they win this game outright.
Yeah, me too.
Somebody said Georgia 1-5 against the spread. They were favored in every single one of those games
by 20 plus.
Yeah, and besides the Alabama game, they were favored by double digits in every single one of those games. So.
Yeah, not really comparable, but
yeah.
All right, thanks everyone for watching. Oh, Brad, want to tell them where they can find your stuff real quick?
Yeah, we just dropped a new episode. You can find it on YouTube or on podcast form. NBC Sports, make sure you check it. It's Bet the Edge. Every Thursday we drop our college football show.
Yeah, it's this morning, Thursday mornings, right?
Yep. Thursday mornings.
So, and that's his Twitter on the screen right there, Mr. Brad Thomas. He's also tagged in my tweet, so if you follow him, you can just click right on. If you follow me, you just click on his name right from there. Brad, thanks for joining, gentlemen.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Have a good night. We'll talk. Oh, Brad, you're here Saturday, right? Because Scoop can't make it. All right, cool.
Yeah, I will not be here. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Cool. So, all right, see you guys tomorrow. Same time for everything. Me and Toast will probably do an MLB stream at midnight like we have been doing. So, see you guys then.